What's up, Mac Nowstalgia? Dave here with a review of Lil Uzi Vert's fourth album, Eternal Atake. Of course, this is the follow-up to Uzi's blockbuster album, Eternal Atake, which dropped in 2020, right as the pandemic was beginning. A long time ago at this point, but to me is my favorite Lil Uzi Vert project, just littered with bangers, and had a deluxe version of it, Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World 2, that added even more bangers to it. To me, that was the critical apex of Lil Uzi Vert's music. Of course, since that time, it took us a long while to get any noticeable and noteworthy Lil Uzi Vert music, but he did return after some time away with Pink Tape last year, which noticeably was Uzi getting a bit more experimental, some kind of rock dalliances, some punk dalliances, stuff that he's flirted with but never really dove into musically. And I think that tape, that given a lot of the hype and the anticipation for it, didn't land nearly as successfully as Uzi probably would have liked. Nonetheless, I'll always be excited about him giving us a full-length project like Eternal Atake 2, just because to me he's one of the most important rappers of the last 10 years, which is funny to think about because he's been in our lives about 9 years. All My Chains came out back in 2015. It's crazy to think. Of course, following Pink Tape and even the stuff that came out, in the lead up to that post Eternal Take 1, Uzi's become a lot more enigmatic. I think he's a bit harder to pin down. The musical quality also has been a bit more dubious. And Just Wanna Rock's hit status aside, definitely his creative peaked in 2020, and before that, of course, with the major come up stuff since 2016. So Uzi's definitely not at his hottest, not at the strongest critical standing. I think that much is quite obvious. Lil Uzi Vert's fourth album, Eternal Atake 2, has some great moments, but doesn't really stand up to the enduring legacy of its blockbuster predecessor. There are definitely moments reminiscent of past Uzi glory on this album, but there's also just a lot of forgettable material, and I think Uzi's rapping, his vocals, his rhymes are not as consistent as they once were. It's hard to be super confident in Uzi's ability to be an album artist at this stage. I think we have to take a step back and lock more in on moments. And to that point, I think Perky Sex off Eternal Atake 2 is one of the best Uzi songs of the last 5 years. I mean, that is an absolute banger with an incredible beat and really fun wordplay and whatnot. Other than that, though, there's some moments, but Eternal Take 2 just doesn't feel nearly as fresh or as essential as past Uzi projects used to, and that's a bit of a shame. It's kind of going through the track list here. Number one, track one, We Good. Bass is hitting nice. Uzi seemingly rapping about like a new contract. I'm not sure. Does he have like something new with Atlantic that we didn't know about? I'm not sure. I like the drop on Lightyear. I think Meteor Man is probably the first song of any real consequence, though, track 3, where you have Uzi seemingly doing a version of like Cardi voice, of like rage music, etc. I don't think it comes together at all. The song's pretty meh. Pars in the Mars, this one, I don't know, like you have Uzi rapping about being too high, but there's just like placeholder bars. Like that's something Kanye would do at this point. Like it just doesn't feel like a finished song. The Rush featuring Big Time Rush is hilarious for that being the only feature. I don't think the song really amounts to much of anything at all. Also, apparently, only 3 of the 4 Big Time Rush members are on the song, and the other one, it clearly did not want to be on the song, and it's a minor controversy for people who care about Big Time Rush. Kind of funny. Not an Option, I think, would be a really solid song, but the beat is just so monotonous and lackluster that it's a letdown ultimately. Mr. Chow, I think, is probably the best pure vocal performance from Uzi. His best rapping, his fun beat with these like triumphant horns. I think that's definitely a highlight for sure. Lift Them Up, beat's solid. Chips and Dip, a bit crazy of a beat with these like distorted horns. At least it stood out. Black Hole, I think, is probably the best use of auto-tune on the whole album. Chill Bay is interesting. I think this song, it works, but it stands out because it's almost like softer spoken Uzi going a lot more melodic while still being up tempo. It's kind of unique. But yeah, I think it's an album that ultimately ends much stronger than it begins. But if you're an Uzi fan, I mean, I have a hard time thinking you're gonna listen to too much of this music over the highs of the past. And it's not like Uzi's doing anything new with this to make you at least intrigued by it. Like I think Pink Tape, to its credit, was Uzi doing a lot of stuff for the first time with the rock and punk stuff and whatnot, and like the baby metal and all that. Like Eternal Atake 2, this is just a lesser version of past Uzi music, so there's really just not a whole lot to really recommend about it, apart from a few highlights like Perky Sex. But yeah, let me know, what did you think of Lil Uzi Vert's latest record? What was your favorite song? And for more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.